Hello guys, and welcome back to another episode of StarCraft, where I take you through the missions and how to get the achievements. Today's mission is Brothers in Arms in the Legacy of the Void campaign, and the achievements are Brothers in Arms. Complete the mission. Mental Breakdown, kind of something I have in an everyday thing. Destroy 80 or more disrupted enemies for the Alliance. Do not let allies lose more than 5 buildings on normal. This mission is actually pretty simple. Basically, for the first half of the mission, you're going to be playing a pseudo-aggressive defense, which means you're going to be running the gambit from defending your allies' bases and doing minor pushes when they do their disruptions. Every time they do a disruption, they will send out a hybrid strike force, and what your job is going to need to be is when those strike forces come out, you're going to need to intercept them before they get to basically the ally bases, because they will be full of hybrid and your allies will be stunned, so you will need to protect them. Luckily enough, it's not that hard. For this one, I'd suggest on an army composition doing something like a immortal stalker build. So probably like 1 immortal for every 2 stalkers, or you might even be able to get away with a 1-to-1 ratio. Yeah, on this one you have Valarion and Raynor as your allies. Raynor basically is fine for the most part. He will need a little bit of defending, but Valarion, basically that first stun that happened in the cinematic pretty much wiped out his entire force. So if the hybrids start headed his way, you definitely have to intercept before they get there, because he will not have the ability to defend himself. Also, periodically, they will send attacks at your base, so make sure you get a forge going ASAP, so this way you can start setting up defenses of your own. And basically you can use them to bolster your allies' frontline defenses. And then once you have a front line established for both of your allies' bases and a defense for your home base, that is when you can start pushing during the disruptions. I really wouldn't push until then. Also, there's 3 bases, I believe, that are being held down by enemy forces throughout, and they hold medics, medevacs, they hold medics, science vessels, and something, I can't remember what the third one is, but they're all 3 healing type things, so it's one of those, as you go through, you want to clear out those bases, so this way they start sending medics and medevacs and stuff to the front lines, because they also heal your units while they're there, so. And if you march straight down this road, I believe you run right into the first medic base that's being held. Also, you'll find a expansion up here. Also, I found that the pylon that drops troops from your Spear of Adun is invaluable for missions like this, because you need that quick troop boost, basically. Also, on your unit composition, on your army unit composition, don't forget to throw in a couple of stalkers, because not stalkers, sentries, because your don't forget to throw in a couple of sentries, because your troops basically have really big shields, but not a lot of life. The immortals have a lot of shields and do a lot of damage, but they don't have a lot of life. And the stalkers can regenerate their shields when they blink. So basically you want to have the sentries there so they can help protect your stalkers, your stalkers and your immortals. Also, don't forget that your sentries have an ability to create a shield, which basically reduces the amount of damage that the troops in the shield take. So don't forget to use that ability like I always do. And then once you defeat the hybrid patrol that comes out, go ahead and start assaulting the stunned Terrans. And I do believe they send 2 hybrid assaults each stun. So just be aware of that and try not to stretch yourself too thin or something along those lines. Now that I've defeated the second patrol, I can push into it, but keep an eye on the timer. You don't want to be out there when they basically return to being normal. Set up defenses. Yeah, usually when you're setting up defenses, 1 pylon with a cannon at all 4 cardinal directions is usually enough to protect a base. Sorry, apparently I'm having a speech impediment today. Speech impediment. Here comes a patrol trying to take out my expanse, and I say, no. Also, I like the way they have this set up, because it allows you to do a very long stretch for your power field layout for your pylons. Do not fall behind on your probe production like I have. And then basically, when the stun is worn off, you don't have to worry about defending your allies' bases, because they can pretty much manage on their own while they're awake. It's just when they are stunned that they need your help to defend themselves. Because it doesn't take that long for hybrids to move in and take out 5 buildings. Especially if you're not paying attention, you can lose them. Hell, you can lose a whole line real quick. Yeah, you can definitely see where they got the ideas for basically MOBAs from StarCraft, because if you look at this map, it's kind of set up like a 3-lane MOBA map, because you have three heroes, which are Raynor, Artanis, and Valarion. They're not on the map, but you have them. You have their creeps, which are our troops, and then each one has its own little lane that goes all the way to the destination. So it's kind of like a half a MOBA map. Yeah, and now they're going after Valarion. So basically, make sure you're heading down that way to stop them from coming after Valarion. There we go. Yeah, those are two of the commanders I want to see. Every time I play the Zerg co-op, every time I play the Zerg campaign, I keep thinking I want to see basically a primal Zerg commander, and then every time I play Legacy of the Void, I keep thinking I want to see a hybrid commander too. Like, if you got to play Narud, that would be awesome. Basically play Narud for your hybrid and play Dahaka for your primals. Those would be neat. Because the only other ones, like Stukov, he's still pretty much just a basic Zerg. He'd probably be more focused on your Terran Zerg, which would be like, it would be interesting because it would be hybridization between Terran and Zerg, which is, it's okay, but, you know, it's kind of not a lot you can do with that. Whereas the hybrids have their own, you know, set of units. Same thing goes for the primals. Plus, the primals have the added benefit of the more biological units they just encounter and destroy, the more chances they can change. They can transform into new units and, you know, evolve. There we go, freed one of those medic units, or medic bases thingies. And now I just pull back and build up the army again. You can build zealots as kind of like a frontline defense. They soak up a lot of damage for your stalkers and immortals, so treat them as frontline shields pretty much. Let's see. We have the unit for the Zerg. We have the unit for the hybrid. What would make a good commander for these Protoss now? It's just like, because I'm trying to think about it, and there's not a lot that hasn't been done already. I'm thinking like, well, no, because they're just kind of like dark versions. I was going to say the Tal'Darim, but literally they're just Protoss, emo Protoss. Then I was like, well, what about the Centurions? But they're just Protoss that are robots instead of fart clouds. So it's like, okay, no on that one. Rohana might be a good commander, because she's basically, she could bring in what old Protoss used to be before they became one with the Kala. And that would be pretty neat. Also, another thing that would be kind of neat is if they kind of revisited the Earth Directorate. Because they made an appearance in Brood War, which is where Stukov came from. Because he came in after he found out that this colony out here had actually started to thrive, because basically the Terrans are a prison colony that was launched into space. Because the Earth Directorate, once they filled up a ship with prisoners, they just launched it into space. And they launched them all in the general vicinity of the Caprulu sector, so they set up their own colonies out there. After a while, word got back home to the Earth Directorate that there was this that the prisoners they had sent out had started setting up colony worlds and stuff like that. So the Earth Directorate saying, well, that's our people, we sent them out there, those are our colonies. So like the good old English, they tried to go out there and retake the colonies. Unfortunately, what they didn't expect was Kerrigan was hatching a scheme to try to take out both the Terran and the Protoss. But she was masquerading as a ally to the Terrans at the time. So basically she intercepts the Earth Directorate, sends them on their tail, basically. And unbeknownst to her, she thinks Stukov died in that assault, but apparently he was captured by Nerud's forces and used in experiments to try to combine human and Zerg DNA. Now, another thing I'd like to see is I want to see basically StarCraft the animated series, or something along that lines, or even a probably like a comic series. Now, there's probably one out there, I just can't find it, or I haven't come across it yet. But that would be pretty neat, because there's a lot of lore and stuff like that in StarCraft that hasn't really been touched on. Now, whether or not they plan on touching on it in these later chapters that are coming out, that could happen. And there's the 80 unit achievement, or 80 disrupted unit achievement. But yeah, it's one of those, I want to see, what happened to a lot of these things, like Niadra, the brood mother that took over the colony, the Protoss colony ship. I want to see what happened to her, because apparently we still don't know what's happened to her. She's disappeared. Even when Kerrigan united the Zerg and everything like that, you never see Niadra again. I'd just like to know what happened to her. There's what happened to Dahaka after Heart of the Swarm. They never touch on that either. It's like you see that Kerrigan still has Stukov and Isha with her in Legacy of the Void in this campaign, but it's like, okay, what happened to her other generals? In Wings of Liberty, you still see that they have, Horner, Admiral Horner, and the other guys, but what happened to Tosh? Because they talk about using him from time to time, even though it doesn't matter what you went with, because at the beginning of, I believe it's the Heart of the Swarm, Nova says, when she captures Jim, she's like, well, you did help me out with that Tosh situation previously, and then literally down the road, when you used the Queen of Blades to go basically get help in locating Jim, Horner is like, we're going to use our infiltrator dude Tosh to basically find Jim. And it's like, wait a minute. You had to choose which one you wanted to go with in Wings of Liberty, but for some reason in Heart of the Swarm you apparently went with both. That's one of the things that kind of bugs me about the StarCraft storyline, is because it's kind of, I don't know how to say it. It's not consistent, let's put it that way. It is, but it isn't. Like, there are little inconsistencies all over the place that kind of drive you insane, so searching for targets. I don't want to use all that on just like one dude. Give me some. Anything. But yeah, it's like, for the most part, you have this epic story that spanned over 10 years, and then I can understand the fact that maybe they don't know everything about it, you know? Maybe there are going to be things that fall through the cracks. But if you have missions where you have to choose either or, you don't go into the next chapter saying, I went with both. Especially because if you went with Nova, she puts a knife in the back of Tosh's head. So it's a little hard to see how Tosh is alive after that. So... But yeah, like I said, you don't really have to worry about your allies in this mission, because they can pretty much handle themselves when they're awake. It's only during the disruption phases that you actually have to do things. Well, you do have to defend yourself against the assaults from the Terrans when they're awake, which they only happen, I think, once per awakening, I guess you'd call it, the non-disruption phase. The other things you have to do is kind of move around and free the medic bases. Which, there you see the medics. You just saw the science vessel base. Base, not base. I still can't remember what the third one is. I guess we'll see that when we get over there. Which I seem to be moving out that way right now. Here comes the disruption, so you gotta move out and intercept the hybrid force that's coming in. The other thing is, with this mission, it's battling impatience, because you can move out when they're not disrupted, but it's kind of a waste of units that you don't need to lose, so... And always remember, they send 2 waves of hybrid, so... Moving in to take these guys out. But yeah, I still say it would be awesome. They'd have to tweak the hybrid general if they did that, because he'd be neat. But his units, as they stand, are really overpowered. Especially with the fact that all the hybrids can basically do this, like, absorb technique that pulls life energy from both Protoss and Zerg alike, so... And again, that's a unique thing that only hybrids have. It could be, it could be the general ability, the commander ability, where basically he can activate it and all of his hybrid, like, do an AoE absorption technique for the units around them, you know? Also, I was having bad internet connection at this time, so at the end of this mission, none of the achievements pop, but I did get them, and it just didn't show it, so... That's the one thing I do have a gripe with, the BattleNet situation, is because if you have any type of internet disruption like I do, even if it's short term, like, you know, it kicks you for like 2 seconds, if you're in the middle of a mission or anything like that where you need to get achievements, you won't get them for that mission, because the internet basically says, well, he disconnected during this time, so he could have been doing hacking or da-da-da-da-da, so we're not going to give him the achievement. And it really sucks, because sometimes those missions are like, you know, 30-40 minutes, and you're just like, alright, I'm 35 minutes in, and disconnect. I'm gonna stab somebody. That, and the other thing that makes the hybrid commander plausible is there are so many different hybrid types now. It used to just be that you only had the little glowy blue ones, but now you have the glowy blue ones, you have these gray ones, you have the kind of aqua ones that can use, like these guys right here, that can use the psionic storms. You have the flying ones. There are just several of them out there right now. Also, you have the Red Devil ones, as I like to call them, that are basically like an Ultralisk on crack. Alright. Looks like we got it. Alright, guys. That's been Brothers in Arms and how to get the achievements. If y'all like what y'all saw, give it a like, share, and a comment down below. I hope y'all liked what you... If you did, bleh, check me out on Facebook, Anthony Sewell. I hope to see you soon. Thanks for watching.